2016 was supposed to be the year of Saint Pablo. With the successful release of his 7th studio album, The Life of Pablo, Kanye West was set to drop his Yeezy Season 3 fashion line while also going on tour at the end of August. However, Ye would take everyone by surprise, announcing a new album just 10 days after the release of Pablo. The record was titled Grafx 16 and would have an arcade theme infused with a new era synthwave sound. While Kanye would never officially release Grafx 16, it stands as one of the most mysterious unreleased works in Kanye's discography. Today, we revisit the Grafx 16 timeline and piece together what was set to be Kanye West's video game-inspired answer to negative press and critics. On February 14th of 2016, Kanye West would officially release The Life of Pablo. Kanye was a very busy man in 2016. Not only had he just released his latest fashion line, but he also announced a music tour, the Saint Pablo tour. While many figured that, okay, this tour would feature songs off of The Life of Pablo, Kanye was planning to drop another record before the tour officially began in late August. On February 24th, Kanye would tweet out that he had another album coming in the summer. 3 days later, on the 27th, Kanye would announce that the album's title was Grafx 16. Kanye would say that that was his favorite gaming console as a kid, and he was set to create an arcade-infused album before he officially went on tour. Looking back, The Life of Pablo even had some video game-inspired elements. If we look back at facts, the song has a Street Fighter sample. This shows that Kanye was already kind of onto the video game vibes before officially announcing Grafx 16. In an interview in late February, Tony Williams would speak to Central Track, basically explaining that some tracks that were made for The Life of Pablo were planned to be put on Grafx 16. Kanye himself would elaborate on having some songs saved, or as he put it, in the vault, teasing the release of some saved tracks with the likes of Kendrick Lamar, Young Thug, and even Drake. I think it's pretty important to note that this Pablo era would see many early signs of Kanye's bipolar tendencies. I mean, when he tweeted out that information about the title being Grafx 16, that was literally in the midst of him having a Twitter rant about the Grammys. Looking back on The Life of Pablo, it kind of started the whole trend of Kanye delaying his albums. Not only would Kanye change the cover art for the record on numerous occasions, but even after its official release, he would go back and edit tracks. Now, these aren't necessarily bad actions, but it just kind of gives us fans a view into Kanye's mind state at this point in time. Basically, he would have a bunch of ideas, announce them to the public, and then never follow up. Studio sessions for Grafx 16 would begin in late February, with IBN Jasper posting a picture of Kanye in the studio with Kid Cudi, Mike Dean, and Plain Pat. The caption of the post would read Grafx 16 Day 1, and will be posted on the 28th of February. As studio sessions continued, Kanye would bring in multiple young artists such as Lil Yachty, Tyler the Creator, and A$AP Rocky, just to name a few. Quavo would post a picture of himself, Lil Yachty, Kanye, Big Sean, Vic Mensa, and Offset on March 28th with the caption, Turbo. In April, producer Hudson Mohawk would tweet out a picture of a very sloppily rough draft of the Grafx 16 track list. This tweet would be deleted very quickly, but fans took screenshots and the hype was building. The song Champions would be worked on and finished up during these Grafx sessions. I talked about it in my latest video last Friday, but if you missed it, basically this was the single that was intended to hype up fans for the sequel to Cruel Summer, Cruel Winter. That track would drop on June 7th. Among the songs worked on for TurboGrafx 16, Kanye would also work on the track Saint Pablo during these sessions. Ye would add the track onto The Life of Pablo as an album closer on June 14th. So we're kind of seeing now that there's a lot of ideas going on in Kanye's head. You know, you got the Cruel Winter album. He even added a song to his already released record months after. But very few of these ideas would come to fruition, would be released. Without releasing TurboGrafx 16, Kanye begins his Saint Pablo tour on August 25th. Having many projects on his plate while attempting to balance a family life while on tour proved to be very exhausting for Kanye. The news of wife Kim Kardashian being robbed in Paris would ultimately be the straw that broke the camel's back. Kanye would show up to shows late and even have very little crowd interaction, something that's very, very out of character for Kanye while performing live. However, Kanye, following this tragic news, he just kept pressuring himself to continue on. After all, this tour was initiated to help get Kanye out of debt. However, his reluctance to delay the tour would ultimately lead to disaster. On November 19th in Sacramento, California, Kanye would break out into a nearly 20-minute rant speaking on politics, radio, and broken friendships. After just playing 3 songs, Kanye would walk off stage and inevitably cancel the rest of the tour. Following his public breakdown, Kanye would be hospitalized due to exhaustion and later diagnosed with bipolar disorder. After spending a week in the hospital, Kanye would be released from the UCLA Medical Center on November 30th. He planned to get right back to work and focus on music. Producer and former Kanye collaborator Pete Rock would post a picture to Instagram titled Lab Work. In the image, a piece of paper with video game titles planned to be samples on TurboGrafx 16 is visible. While originally Kanye was down to continue with the arcade video game theme for his 8th studio record, he would inevitably scrap the TurboGrafx 16 concept and begin to work on Love Everyone. Now that we properly ran down the TurboGrafx 16 timeline, let's take a look at the tracks that have leaked from this era. So our first leak we're going to talk about is the track All Eyes on Ye. So this song has kind of like a synth beat to it, and it's the same exact beat from another leaked song from Kid Cudi, and the song is titled Maple. The version we have with Kid Cudi is merely just him humming, so I personally believe that this was set up for Kid Cudi to just kind of have the backing vocals, if you will, with those hums, and then they would complement Kanye's mumble verse that we do have. Next track, Clockwork Orange. This is seen on the TurboGrafx 16 rough draft track list that was leaked, and this has been confirmed by sources to be Can You Be. This version has a Travis Scott feature, and this is the one that was played on Instagram Live by Che Pope. Euro 2 is known to some fans as Switch Hands. We have a version with Kanye that's just solo, but we also have a version featuring A$AP Rocky, and this song has been given to A$AP Rocky. Face Down is a really interesting leak. This has not only been planned, or said to be planned for TurboGrafx 16, it also has at times been planned for Cruel Winter. Some fans might know this song as Indigo Sound, and 5 versions of this song actually exist. Version 1 is just solo with Kanye. Version 2 features Lil Yachty. Version 3 features Quavo. And version 4 features both Lil Yachty and Quavo, but some people out there believe that version 4 is simply just an edit, which could be. There's not really much difference to it from version 2's verse with Yachty and then version 3's verse with Quavo. Version 5 is literally just 070 Shake on it, so some people believe that this isn't even traced to Kanye version 5 and maybe he gave the song to Shake, but we really don't know. Hold Tight is known to some people as Black Tron. This song has multiple versions, but all of which feature Young Thug and Migos. This is actually believed to be one of the first songs made during the Grafx 16 sessions, as Thug and Migos all sampled or gave fans a little preview of this song after the Life of Pablo's release. As I said, there's a few versions of this song out. There's a version 1 and a version 2. The only difference between the two is the change in Quavo's verse, which on version 2 has more auto-tune to it and is reverbed. The track Man Up has many names. Some people know it as Bad Night, some people know it as Capri Sun, and I think most people know it as Rap Tarantino. So this is a song that was originally planned for both Yeezus 2 and then later So Help Me God, but because both of those albums were scrapped, it went through the Pablo era and is probably one of those songs that was vaulted for Grafx 16. The version that was meant for Grafx 16 has a totally different production than the first 6 versions of this song. Like I said, the 7th version is the one that was meant for Turbo and has the same hook as the previous 6 versions, but then has a full Kanye verse. The song Only also is one that has a few versions. The first one is just solo with Ye, and then the second version features Tyga. This is known better to most fans as Only Ye. The next leak we're going to talk about is titled Rich N-Word Drunk. This one also features Tyga, so it's believed to be a song that was made also along with Only during that same session. Kanye is on the hook of this song as well as the refrain, and then Tyga, of course, has a verse. If I hadn't said it enough, this album had so many elements of just like new era synthwave that I think would have really influenced the rap game. So many artists would have came out with so many new sounds. It really would have inspired, I think, a lot of new artists to do some cool stuff. And it's just a shame that this like the synth elements on this record didn't get carried on to inevitably we would get Ye. So it's just a shame we never got to really get an official release. I think this would have really inspired the rap game and changed things up for sure. One of my personal favorite snippets that we've ever received from the Grafx 16 era is the leak Welcome to UCLA. While it's heavily unfinished, the spiteful lyrics that Kanye delivers here are just so great. Some people say that he recorded this while he was in the UCLA Medical Center. Some people say right after. Either way, it's just great. It kind of mirrors like I Love Kanye off Pablo, but it's just even better. Kanye not only mocks the LA lifestyle and the culture of Los Angeles, which he already bashed kind of on The Life of Pablo. Watch my analysis if you haven't yet. But also his critics at this time who were calling him crazy and all this stuff. Forza is a very interesting little, I guess, piece of information, more or less. It isn't really a leak. It's a song that was produced by Tyler, the Creator. It was unfinished, but like people who have heard it say it's just absolutely beautiful. So hopefully one day we'll get to hear it, but yeah, I thought it was just worth noting here. Now there's songs that we haven't really heard that were on the track list that I think should be mentioned. It is possible that one of these songs, or a few of them, were just under a different title. But basically these songs just have so little information, they didn't feel like mentioning them on their own in a solo entity. So we got the song No Model. Some of you might have heard the leaks from the Yeezus 2 / So Help Me God version of this track, but those are not related. This version has different production, it's totally different, and it also has a feature from Pusha T. There's a song that features Kid Cudi. It could be called Bethel, it could be called Bethel. We don't really know because that rough draft track list is really sloppily written, but all we know is Cudi's on it, and it starts with a B, and it's either Bethel or Bethel. I don't know. There's a song also on the track list called Grudge that we know absolutely nothing about. Also on the track list is a song Madlib Freestyle planned to feature Kendrick Lamar. I would imagine this is something Kanye and Kendrick recorded during the Pablo sessions that Kanye was talking about being in the vault. There's a song titled Void in My Life, which featured Young Thug. And then finally, another track we know absolutely nothing about except for the title is the song Worth More Than My Word. Ultimately, Grafx 16 acts as one of the biggest what-ifs in Kanye's unreleased discography. The video game theme, promised by the title and heard in leaked snippets, gives us the impression that this would have, quite frankly, been one of Kanye's most unique albums ever. And that says a lot, because we're talking about the guy who released Yeezus. This album seemingly was meant to address the critics and the people calling him crazy and all that sort of stuff at this point in time, but Kanye would find his own way to address the naysayers and the press with Ye, a record that would go on to cover Kanye's mental struggles. I think it's really a shame that we never got to hear anything off this album officially released. The crossover between hip-hop and the elements of arcade and the music heard in video games could have made for an absolute classic.